is such a fan of the exchanges, is such a fan of the health care that has been provided to Judy, would the senator from Illinois then support Senator Vitter's amendment to provide that every member of Congress, every one of our staffs, every political appointee in the Obama administration, and frankly, I'd like to see every federal employee all put under the exchanges so that if we're going to make the rules for the American people, that we be subject to those same rules, those same plans, so that when we go on television and say the exchanges are really, really good, we're not talking about something someone else is experiencing. We're talking about our own health care.
Without jeopardizing his control of the floor, I would like to respond and ask a question.
I'm happy to yield for a question without yielding the floor.
And the point I'd like to make is the senator is just plain wrong. What he's just stated is just plain wrong. Here is the state of the situation. The health insurance that you enjoy, and the senator from Alabama, and I enjoy, as well as the senator from Virginia, is the Federal Employees Health Benefit Program. It covers 8 million federal employees and their families, including members of Congress and our staff. For the premiums that we pay for the health insurance we choose, the federal government, as our employer, pays 72% of the premiums. This is not an unusual situation. 150 million Americans.
All right, Dick Durbin now challenging Senator Ted Cruz, who's now going on almost 7 hours on the floor. And joining us now live from D.C. is the man himself. Got all this started, Senator Mike Lee from Utah. It's interesting that Durbin shows up in prime time to challenge Ted Cruz. And Ted does not have to acknowledge him, does he? He can keep going on his own?
He can keep going on his own, but this is one of the great things about Senator Cruz is he's willing to engage with people. He's willing to answer questions, and he doesn't shy away, as you've noticed, Sean, from either controversy or difficult questions.
Yeah, well, I actually, the 72%, that was a give back, was it not, to federal employees? Because they didn't want the exchange. Is that not correct?
Well, Senator Durbin was just describing what is the status quo under the federal employees' health system. But I was waiting to hear where he was going to go next. I'm not sure what point he's about to make. I'll be interested to see what he's going to say.
Oh, but there's also exemptions now in there for big business, right?
Yeah, so this is the point. This is our concern with this law, is that this really pits one group of Americans against another in so many different instances. You know, we've had this big carve out for big business, for example. Individuals have to comply with their mandate, but big businesses don't. That's not fair. There are lots of unfairnesses built into this law. We don't want our federal government pitting one group of Americans against another. It's one of the many pitfalls of big government and one of the many pitfalls of this law. That's why we're fighting against it and why we're standing with the American people, with the House leadership, to fund government and defund Obamacare.
All right, let me give you or allow you an opportunity to explain the process. Cloture being obviously a need for 60 votes. There are 46 Republicans in the United States Senate. And you're saying, and what Ted Cruz has been saying all day, that you should vote against cloture to prevent Harry Reid, because once that cloture vote is reached, then he would just need a simple majority after stripping out the defunding provision in the continuing resolution that was sent to the Senate by the House. Explain why explain what it is first, and then where your fellow Republicans stand on it.
Okay, so first of all, cloture on the bill, which is what we'll be voting on most likely on Friday, maybe on Saturday, is something that will be accomplished so as to end debate on this bill. Now, in this circumstance, we intend to oppose cloture on the bill for the simple reason that Harry Reid doesn't want to give us an up or down vote on this bill, meaning he doesn't want to allow us the option of voting on this bill as it was passed by the House, keeping government funded while defunding Obamacare. Nor does he want us to be able to have a full open amendment process in which both Republicans and Democrats could bring forward amendments and have them considered and voted upon as each senator deems fit. He's not willing to have that either. He wants this middle ground. He wants to have his cake and eat it too. He wants to say we're going to have one amendment and one amendment only. And that amendment will strip out, it'll gut the House passed resolution of the defunding language. And we're saying that's what we're not willing to go along with. Harry Reid will have 53 Democrats vote with him to strip out, to gut the House bill of that defunding language. And I don't want to help him. Ted Cruz doesn't want to help him. And a number of our colleagues are unwilling to help Senator Reid do that, and that's why we're voting no on cloture.
It seems to me that your colleagues that are going to vote for cloture seem to be missing a point here. That vote for cloture then allows a simple majority to strip out the language that the House put in there to defund Obamacare. And you're saying that if you vote against cloture, they won't have that opportunity. Am I understanding that correctly?
They won't have that opportunity, and they will be able to strip it out with a simple majority vote.
Right.
And so that's one of the many reasons why we oppose cloture. That's one of the many reasons why we're inviting your listeners, your viewers out there, anyone who agrees with us on this, make their views known. Call your senators and tell them oppose cloture on this. If Harry Reid's willing to let us have an open amendment process, great. If he's willing to give us an up or down vote on the House bill as is, great. But we can't let him try to have his cake and eat it too. He'll have 53 Democrats helping him out on that. He doesn't need us as Republicans joining him.
Yeah. Why is it? We keep hearing that the only differences between the 7 of you, and I count 7 as of now committed, and that's, Cruz, you, Rubio, Paul, Vitter, Roberts, and Inhofe. I don't know if any have joined since I last checked. I know others have signed on to your bill. You had about 15 of them, but they haven't come out publicly yet at this point. What is there? They say this is a tactical difference. What is there? What tactic are they using, and when would we then get rid of Obamacare with their tactic?
Well, Sean, some people are saying that this is a fait accompli, that this is a done deal, that we know somehow, I'm not sure how we know, but that we know that Harry Reid is going to be able to get 60 votes for cloture. My response to that is we don't know until that happens. A couple of weeks ago, people were saying that it was physically impossible to push through a bill like this through the House of Representatives, that leadership would never go for it. You could never get 218 votes necessary to pass this in the House. And lo and behold, it happened. It happened because the House of Representatives, the Republican leadership over there, boldly acted and bravely acted pursuant to what the American people were asking them to do. It's time for the Senate now to do the same thing. And so I'm not willing to just sit back and say, look, I know that this is going to happen anyway. I'm going to do everything I can to stop this law, and I'm going to use every procedural tool at my disposal to defund Obamacare, to see to it that what the House of Representatives passed has the best possible chance of succeeding.
All right, walk us through the rest of the week. What will happen? Obviously, this will end at some point, probably tonight or early tomorrow morning. I see Senator Sessions has gone on the floor. I would assume he's supporting Senator Cruz, which brings it up to 8. What happens from here?
Okay, so sometime tomorrow, probably at around noon, we will, by a previously arranged time agreement, move on to a vote on cloture on the motion to proceed. That is simply a vote formally to get us onto the bill, so that we're formally debating the bill. Once that happens, another 30 hours will elapse, and at the end of that 30 hours, we'll have another vote that will deal with cloture on the bill. That's the one that matters, right? That's the one that matters. That's the one that matters. So that could occur sometime, possibly sometime Thursday, possibly Friday. There are a lot of variables here that can control when that 30 hours runs and when it stops, whether or not it's cut short.
All right, and I had a friend of mine that's very familiar with process. He's saying that the goal is, well, maybe if we get it into conference. I don't have any confidence in conference. Do you?
In this circumstance, I think we're going to be much better with a piece of legislation that's of great concern to the American people, to have it debated out in the open, out on the floor of the Senate and the House of Representatives. And so it may take more than one volley between the House and Senate, but we can do it that way. One of the major complaints against a conference committee is that they tend to operate in secret, behind closed doors. Whereas when you consider something on the floor, it's an open process, it's televised, it's much more transparent to the American people. And that's an important thing when we're debating something as impactful as this legislation, which attempts to protect the American people by keeping the government funded while defunding Obamacare.
All right, Senator, thanks for being with us. Appreciate it. I wish your fellow colleagues would join you in this. They all promised to do it, but they're nowhere to be found at the hour when it matters. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Sean.
Coming up, we'll continue to